The sports you love, the teams you can't live without.
Get a sense of urgency!
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Oh, man. Jake and Ben, want to remind you about the Hercules Hero of the Week. Nominate the youth sports volunteer you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Submit your nomination at kslsports.com/contest. And listen every Thursday afternoon to JJ and Alex for the winner. Help us celebrate the efforts of those volunteers making an impact with the Hercules Hero of the Week, sponsored by Hercules First Federal Credit Union and Beehive Meals. We're hoping to talk to Mike Smith coming up here momentarily of the Jazz broadcast fame.
I'm curious how you respond to this, and maybe it doesn't matter at all, but some Jazz fans on Twitter again are arguing who is playing and who's not playing. And one specifically was talking about how bad of a coach Will Hardy is because he plays Keontae George over Bryce Sensabaugh. Now, last night, actually, Keontae did start at the 2 because Isaiah Collier started at point guard. Traditionally, the Jazz have been trying to mold Keontae into a point guard, but he started at the 2 last night. And some fans are frustrated that Bryce is a better player, or this is their argument, that Bryce is a better player than Keontae and should be starting there.
Okay.
I have thoughts on this. I don't think they're correct.
You don't think your thoughts are correct? Or
no,
you
I don't think the
thoughts...
argument is correct. Okay. I think it misses an important piece of nuance, which is a word we've used too much lately.
Okay.
I think one of the things you're saying, why, if you want to argue Colin Sexton has been the Jazz's maybe most consistent player this year, and why Bryce maybe has been, I don't know if he's been better than Keontae, but he's been really good lately. I think those guys might actually be playing the roles that they will play on a good team. Whereas I don't know how many other players on this Jazz team you can say that about.
Okay.
Like, Keontae George probably has to be the Jazz's third leading scorer most nights. Maybe that is his ideal role, but I bet his usage rate that he has now, which I don't even know what it is, but is way higher than what it will be on a good team. He's being asked to do too much. And the Jazz are throwing him out there and baptism by fire, and they're trying to see how much they can get and what they can develop him into. But I don't think when he finally is on a good team or a winning team, assuming he's on a team like that at any point in his career, it won't necessarily resemble what he's doing now. I feel the same way about Lauri Markkanen. Jazz are asking Lauri, 24.5%, a quarter of the possessions when he's on the floor, finished with Keontae. That seems like a lot to me. Mm-hmm. Jazz are asking Lauri to be a number one guy. He's not a number one guy. He's really good. I don't think he's Dirk Nowitzki on a championship-level team. So as I just kind of look at what the Jazz have been asking their players to do, the best players, I think their roles resemble who they will be in the NBA. And I'll throw Walker in that conversation. Walker, right now, will continue to scale up with good teams. He will be a double-double guy on a good team because he's playing the role that he exactly is supposed to be playing.
Can I respond to you real quick before we get to Mike?
Yeah.
And to that person calling Will Hardy a bad coach because of some finite thing?
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't care because you cannot make a judgment on Will Hardy if he's a good or bad coach based on this season. I don't care. I don't even think you can really make a judgment on the players that much. I mean, we can look at incremental improvement. If I were to make a judgment on whether or not Will Hardy was a good coach based on this season, I would look at things like he said yesterday, the quote that you pulled about the competition, but not having it poison the well. Like those sorts of things I think matter, but even those are so small, it's barely worth considering at this moment in time. So if you're going to judge Will Hardy as a bad coach because of something happening from a playing standpoint, rotation, anything, I think that is unfair. I don't think he's trying to win. I don't think he cares who he starts.
Okay.
Do you? I mean, he's playing Patty Mills coming down the stretch. All right, joining us now, you see him on K-Jazz, Jazz Plus, SEG Plus. You hear him with us on pregame, the one and only Mike Smith. What's up, Mike?
Hi, Jake and Ben. How are you?
We're doing well. We're talking about right now the ideal role for some of these players on this Jazz roster and who actually has the luxury of playing what their actual role will be in the NBA versus, kind of maybe being forced to play a role or position above who they are.
Right.
Meaning Keontae George, a lot of times right now, has to be the Jazz's either go-to option like he was last night or number 2 option. And I don't know if that's who he is in his prime. As an NBA player yourself, Mike, how important is it? Did you see that, Kevin McHale was probably the second best player on the team, and he got to play that because it was great that he had Larry Bird in front of him, but might have miscast being asked to do something else.
Yeah, no, it's very true. And on a veteran team like that, a winning team like that, I guess you can make some sacrifices. You can play different roles, especially when you have a generational star on my Celtic teams. It just made everything better for everybody. It made everything easier. And the fact that they had played together and won together made everything easier. It made it more difficult on me when I got there because I was joining a team that was so established. And it was just such a different league then. But I think there's merit to what you're saying. I think this season, as we all know, is about development, improvement, and progress and taking steps towards getting better every day. I think we've seen that from Walker. I think Walker has really rebounded well from, last year's, let's say, step backwards, if it were, a couple steps based on where he was his rookie year. But I think it was more conditioning and maybe even fatigue and injury related, based on his summer with the national team and then coming out and then early hand injury and never really got into a rhythm. Whereas this year, he's starting to show who he was the first year. But it's unfair to judge the players. It's unfair to judge the coach, but we can still make our assessments, right? I like the coach. I love what I'm seeing from a Bryce Sensabaugh. Like the last 4 games he's played, it's 24 a game in about 25 minutes, and his plus minus is plus 36 in those 4 games. Like when he's on the floor, they're doing good things. They're not losing. That's a pretty good little, I know, small sample. But I also ran some numbers. Jake may know this, but I ran some numbers and calculated the 19 games in his career. He's played 25 minutes or more, and he averages 17, 18 points a game. Like he's just a proven commodity on that end, and it's now seen visually. So the losses are tough to swallow. As a broadcaster, the losses are tough to deal with, right? Even though you're not in the trenches. But I still kind of take it with a grain of salt and see the big picture. That's my aim with this year.
I will not bias your take with my own hot take, so I'll just ask this way. Where are you at on LaMelo Ball?
It's funny. I saw a guy in the stands last night in the arena on the concourse wearing a LaMelo Ball shirt. And he was with another guy, and he was wearing a Markkanen shirt, like a jersey. And I said, like, you guys are buddies? And they, yeah, we're best buddies. Huge hoop fans? Yeah, huge hoop fans. And I go, you must be from California, speaking to the guy in the Ball jersey. He's like, Chino Hills and that. And he goes, no, I'm from here. I go, you like LaMelo Ball? He goes, yeah, one of my favorites. I love all the Balls. Have you heard the latest song by the One Brother? I'm like, no, I haven't. All I know is Lonzo doesn't play, and LaMelo gets hurt a lot too, but he's pretty good. Which probably sums up my thoughts. But I don't know, Jake. Like, he takes the second most shots of anyone in the history of the NBA, and he takes the most threes of anyone in the history of the NBA. Like, if you look at career numbers, he takes 13 threes a game. He takes 25 field goal attempts a game. Only Kobe has taken more shots per game in the history of the league. Granted, he did show me some stuff last night. Like, the guy's got some game. Like those buckets down the stretch where he used his body and attacked the rim and then used the rim as his ally and kind of made reverse and, side layups and stuff that were critical hoops down the stretch. I was like, okay, he's not a chop. He's pretty good, and he can pass and he moves the ball, and he's just not my kind of player.
Let me ask you this, Mike, real quick. Let me ask you this, because you know Larry Bird personally. If Larry Bird were on the Charlotte Hornets and he watched LaMelo Ball come up the floor and razzle-dazzle between the legs, do a high step, like Deion Sanders going to the end zone, and then take a step back 30-foot prayer. I'm curious, what do you think Larry would say about that?
It's not that he would say anything then. He would have already established in practice the pecking order, both verbally and visually and, practically. Like I'm the guy and the ball needs to be in my hands. And if you do that crap again, you won't be here.
Yeah.
Like it would have already been established long before. There would have been no LaMelo Ball antics on a court on a veteran team like mine. There just wouldn't. I'm going to make, not enemies, but I'm going to make people not mad at me, but they're going to say, okay, I don't believe you. But there are 100 guys in the league today that would have never made the league when I played. And I'm being totally honest. They would have been laughed out of the league. It's just true. And people say, oh, yeah, you're just defending your era 40 years ago. You're just defending, I'm just telling you. Yes, there were 150 less players in the league then. But guys wouldn't have made the team. They wouldn't. We had 12 guys on a team and one roster spot for an injured reserve. So some teams had 13, most teams had 12. And people say, well, the league's way better now. It's way more athletic. I go, no, it isn't. And it's not better. My Celtic team players 1 through 12 would dominate your team 1 through 12. And your players 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 on your roster today would not have made our team. They would have been 13 through 18, and they wouldn't have been on the roster. What? Yeah, great college players would come into our training camp and would not make the team. I'm like, that guy scored 22 a game in college, and he had 8 assists. He was a stud. He couldn't crack the team, not the lineup. It's just a reality. So I'm not saying that LaMelo would not have made an NBA roster back then. His antics wouldn't have survived. But I don't know that he would have been, an all-star.
He would have been a better player, I bet, if the antics went away.
You're probably right. He would have been forced to, walk the line and learn the game the right way. It's just different. So it's so hard to get into that discussion and compare eras. But it's just my own thoughts. But I'm not saying he wouldn't have made a team. He would have made a team. Would he be a starting point guard? I don't know. I don't know. Would he have been the 8th man? Maybe. But anyway, I don't know that he's a winning player, if you're asking me today. And that doesn't mean he's not a good player. He's a really good player. But is he a winning player? Is he a player you want? Is he a player you'd seek and desire and trade for? I don't know.
I think what you're bringing up in pecking order specifically is an interesting term because as the Jazz are seeking to get a top 3 pick of their own, a top 5 pick of their own, LaMelo goes to a Charlotte team, and I don't even remember the entire roster at the point, but goes in and is basically handed everything, right? He becomes the number 1 guy. There's really no competition for it. There's no question. They set up an entire season to get that number 1 guy, which the Jazz are kind of doing as well. Though I would be surprised, Mike, even if the Jazz win the number 1 overall pick and get Cooper Flagg or get Dylan Harper number 2 overall, if they would just say, okay, now it's your team and we're going to let you do whatever you want, even though I think both of those players have shown to have better traits coming into the NBA than LaMelo did, the route that he took. I think the Jazz are trying to establish a culture to place these guys in, not to wait to get this guy and then develop a culture around them.
100%. Don't let me jump in if...
No, go ahead. No, I'm curious if that's how you viewed it as somebody who has played.
I totally agree. They're building a culture here that's different. And just look at where Will Hardy comes from. Okay, so he comes from, in essence, a Popovich tree, right? That's the beginning of his pro basketball knowledge, comes from there. And not that Tim Duncan didn't come right in and dominate. He did, right? He came in, and for all his years, they're a playoff contending championship team. He's, in my opinion, the greatest power forward of all time, given the 5 titles. But other guys came in and kind of had to earn their keep with a Pop, and that's a Parker, and that's a Ginobili, and that's other players kind of had to come in. Now, granted, they're not the number one pick overall, but you could argue that Tony Parker should have been a top 5 pick, and you could certainly argue that Ginobili, taken 57th or whatever he was, should have been a top 5 pick. But we just didn't know enough, or maybe the Spurs did and, got such a steal. But the guy's just a complete baller and a winner and a champion, right? Olympic gold medal, European League MVPs and titles and NBA titles. But like Sean Elliott's my good friend. He's a broadcaster for the Spurs, and he tells me story upon story upon story of Pop just screaming bloody murder at Ginobili at the beginning. Like, what the F are you doing? like, what are you doing? Don't do that. Don't do that. And Ginobili would say in his broken English, Pop, I do what I do. I do what I do. You're soy kin soy. I am what I am. I do what I do. And Sean would just laugh and say, this is the most hilarious, clash you've ever seen of this artist trying to conform and Pop trying to make him conform. And eventually they found a middle ground that worked. But I think Will Hardy comes from that line of thinking, right? That together we'll do it. And so if they did get a Cooper flag, which would be super cool because I think the kid's a stud, just how cool would that be? Nobody's going to hand him the reins and just say, okay, shoot it 30 times and, we'll see what becomes of you and we'll see how we fit around you. No, I don't think that's what's going to happen.
All right, Mike, before we let you go, Ben, did you know that Mike is a movie guy? He's
okay.
He appreciates the cinema.
A cinephile.
Putting me on the spot.
No.
I'm Jake, and go ahead.
This is an easy one because Ben and I do this silly thing on Wednesday where we do drafts and then people get to vote. So I just want to know which list you'd vote for. All right. So the topic is best musicians turned actors. All right, or best acting performances by a musician. All right.
Oh, it's not Harry Connick.
Okay, here we go. Which list is better? Here's one list. Alice Cooper, Wayne's World, Billy Idol, Wedding Singer, Wayne Newton, Vegas Vacation, Will Smith, Independence Day, and Cher, Moonstruck. That's one list.
That's one list in order?
Yeah, in order of where we drafted them. So that's one list.
Or I have to judge them collectively, those 5?
Yep, or this one. Frank Sinatra, Manchurian Candidate, Eminem in 8 Mile, Mark Wahlberg in The Fighter, Dolly Parton, Straight Talk, and Randy Travis in The Rainmaker.
Oh, wow. Well, the second list is better collectively.
Well, Mike, hey, it was good to have you, Mike. We got to go. Yeah, we got to go to break. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you, Mike.
Wait. But the first list had the 2 best actors.
Well, there we go. Mike, talk more. We got some
Will
time.
And Cher.
Yeah.
You guys are fun. It's good seeing you guys. And
you trying to tell me that Will Smith is a better actor than Marky Mark? I think not.
That's actually a good question.
One of them has an Oscar.
Ridiculous Oscar that barely counts.
You know who I didn't like? Not a musician, but you know who I didn't like and now I have greater appreciation for is Billy Bob Thornton.
Okay.
I didn't like him. I don't know why I didn't like him. I just didn't like him. And then I just watched Landman, and he crushes it in Landman on Paramount or whatever. And I'm like, okay, he's fantastic. Like, that guy can act, and he's hilarious, and maybe it's because I like the series, but what can I do for you guys?
I'm just trying now.
Make your life better?
I'm just trying now to think if my wife came to me and said, I want you to wear a vial of my blood around your neck if I do it.
Have you ever done any TV, not sports? Have you done any acting in your life, Mike?
Ben, you come up with the best questions. No. There was a spoof movie filmed in L.A. called an Alan Smithy Project or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if that ever made it to mainstream, but I was one of the extras because there's a basketball scene in Staples Center, and I'm a young, 38-year-old broadcaster for the Clippers, and so they needed guys who could shoot and play, so I dressed up. And smartly, I should say, when they handed out jerseys, I grabbed a jersey with the last name on the back was the name of one of the producers of the movie. So instead of grabbing Smith or Davis or Johnson or Williams, I saw the producer, which was some Jewish name. I can't remember if it was Steinberg or whatever, and I just grabbed his jersey because I knew it would get more air.
It'll get on. Yeah, it'll get on.
So I'm in that movie, but not more than 8 seconds or so.
Alan Smithy is the name directors used to use when there was a bad movie made, and they didn't want their name attached. So they would use that as a pseudonym to bury a bad movie and not get credit.
Oh, that's kind of hilarious.
It was a bad movie. It was a whole spoof on OJ and all sorts of things. It was kind of a crazy one. But I do love the cinema. And I'm glad we're finally making movies again because during COVID there wasn't a lot of movies, and my wife and I loved the movies.
Well, you know that Ben's brother is a big deal in Hollywood, right?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
Maybe we can.
But I knew Ben had ties. I didn't know the reason why.
I got different ties too. I got lots of ties.
Really?
That's cool.
No. Ben's brother is super talented. Done a bunch of stuff you've seen, I'm sure.
We'll talk, Mike.
And does Ben get any roles as John Mayer's double? Is what I want to know.
I need to try.
Is your celebrity comp for Ben John Mayer?
No, well, he's already told me Timothy Chalamet also, so I need to do.
Oh, yeah, those are the two comps for Ben. Have you not seen his flowing locks and his handsome cheekbones? He's John Mayer or Timothy Chalamet.
I need to start doing stand-in work.
I don't know
Next
about
thing you
that.
know, he's going to be singing, "Come with me." Right?
See, I don't know. Ben gives off Drew Carey vibes to me for some reason.
Drew Carey is heavy and blonde and wears glasses, and Ben is, svelte and tall and
He's like a slim, dark-haired, no glasses Drew Carey. Spitting image.
I don't see that.
Mike, you're the best.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, see you guys.
See you, buddy. That's the one and only Mike Smith. Catch him on K-Jazz, Jazz Plus, SEG Plus as well. No?
Sure. You know what? I would take over Price is Right. If my legacy was that I followed up Drew Carey on Price is Right, that'd be a huge win for me.
That has got to be the best job in Hollywood, right?
Not a bad one.
No, they make $1 zillion.
It might be a little bit soul-crushing because it's just so hammy, but
you only work like 1 month out of the year.
Yeah, you work 1 day a week. They shoot all the episodes in 1 day. So you probably have a long Monday or whatever, Tuesday, whenever they shoot it. You're off the rest of the week. And yeah, you make $10 million a year.
Maybe more.
Yeah, not a bad life.
Nope. Stay tuned. More next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Accessing.
This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G.
The general manager for the Utah Hockey Club, Bill Armstrong.
Every game, we're living and dying in the fact that we want to stay in the race, so every game is life or death. So the boys are dialed in and ready to go out there and fight. So it's been pretty exciting. And let's be honest, we got great fans. Anytime we can play at home, it's sold out. It's a great environment. People are going crazy. Like, how could you not want to play hockey in the middle of January in Utah?
Catch Hans and Scotty weekdays from noon to 3 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Whether it's the Jazz, Utes, Cougars, or Aggies, these guys have got you covered.
Time to eat, fellas.
You're locked on to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
1, 2, 3, move it.
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Thanks to Mike Smith for jumping on with us.
Shout out to our old friend of the program, who actually started the segment, What You Got Wednesday. Sarah, our old producer, texted in. She said she liked your list because it had Eminem on it, which is why we fired Sarah.
Better believe it.
I was so happy to fire Sarah.
I don't think we did fire
Which is
Sarah.
why I absolutely berated her after I fired her on her way out the door.
Really?
Absolutely. I followed her out. I was in her ear.
Have you ever actually berated anybody? Oh, yeah, the security guard at the concert.
Yeah, that's the most berating.
That hipster concert you went to.
Yeah, the guy who put me in the headlock. I gave him the business verbally, and I yelled at. I was a waiter at a hotel, and I yelled at the chef one time.
I don't know if I've ever berated anybody. Christian?
I'm way too nice to let people have it. Yeah.
Don't make me look like I'm a bad guy because
No,
I yell.
no, sorry, that's not what I mean. I'm just too shy. I'm too, what if I end up needing something from them later?
No, he meant it. You are a bad guy. You can't go yelling at some security guard. Are you kidding? Or some poor chef.
Yeah, you can.
No, I don't think
They're
you should.
doing a terrible job. If you're being put in a headlock wrongfully, you can yell at that person. Absolutely, you can. Am I supposed to forgive him?
Yes.
Hug him?
It is divine.
And then twist it around and put him in a headlock?
No.
The old switcheroo?
Absolutely
Sorry,
not.
buddy. Everyone else came over and apologized to me that was on the security group.
Walking around.
Said he's a loose cannon.
Ben's walking around taking people's heads off left and right. Just berating people over and over and over again.
Well, Frank, quit messing up my orders.
I'm also too short to yell at people. Like, if I'm yelling at people, that makes me look really bad. Like, oh, short guy over here has a temper,
It does. You're not my boss or my father, the angry bagel guy in New York. You do have that energy.
All right. I was just wondering. I think berating people is just, it's like that Philadelphia Eagles fan that has been so controversial and lost his job because he used some really unfortunate language. He made an excuse. He said, "Oh, you didn't. The video didn't get the entire story." And it's like, well, I don't really care what the entire story is. I'm pretty sure you just can't talk to people that way.
Yeah.
You think the Rams have the best shot at an upset this weekend against the Eagles?
Though I do think they're going to have a very difficult time slowing down Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, going to get run over.
It's just not the Aaron Donald-led defense that they used to have. That he was the best player on their team. As much as we talked about the Matt Stafford trade, like Aaron Donald's one of the 3 best football players I've ever seen in my lifetime. Of my era of really like analyzing and watching football, he's as good as I've ever seen. So when you lose that, you lose a lot. And Saquon and the ability to have an identity offensively. And look, we talk so much about Saquon because he's had a brilliant year and has been such a revelation in Philly. They have a stacked receiving core. So, you can't just throw everything at Saquon and say, well, that's going to change the outcome of the game, or you think that's how you're going. Because Jalen Hurts is not a perfect quarterback, but he can still beat you if you leave that core wide open.
Oh, he's absolutely good enough to beat you. When did everybody move off Jalen Hurts? Was he that bad this year?
It was the second half of last season. Because remember, weren't they 9-1 to start the year, and then really were treacherous to end the year? And that might be a coaching issue. It might have been that they lacked help in the run game. But yeah, people backed off.
Where's Sirianni on the genius to bozo scale?
More bozo than genius, and we thought he was a genius early on, but he's gone more bozo. But yeah, they moved off of Brian Johnson, right?
They did. Hurts threw for 2,900 yards this year. How many? 18 touchdowns, 5 interceptions.
How many yards?
2,900.
It's not that great.
It's not.
In today's football, no.
It's not that great. Genius to bozo scale with Sirianni.
Eagles fans will tell you 100% bozo.
See, but the Eagles fans are not
learned a lot about Eagles
rational.
Fans
And
in the last 24 hours.
no, tell me this: have the Eagles fallen victim to their expectations? Are they're a good team. He's a good coach, but the expectations are win the Super Bowl or you suck. Sirianni hasn't. I don't know. I'm trying to debate where he falls. Everybody's now assuming more bozo. It's not like they've been bad.
No, they've been good.
Last year they weren't bad. This year they're not bad. They have a chance to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, they do.
So why would we assume he's more bozo than genius all of a sudden?
I think it's almost the failure of your own success. We've talked about this a lot with coaches. When you set a high bar for yourself.
Yeah, the expectations. That's what I'm saying.
The expectations climb, and you're actually a good coach. Which is why, was it yesterday, 2 days ago, I was defending Mike McCarthy, who I think is a good coach. Because he has won. And he won at Dallas. Got 12-5 over and over and over, which is not easy to do regardless of what your situation is with the number of injuries you have to deal with and drama, much less having a 100% bozo owner in Jerry Jones. He navigated that relatively well. So to hold him to the standard of, the Super Bowl he won in Green Bay or not surpassing 12-5 is difficult, and that's probably where Sirianni is.
I would actually maybe put McCarthy higher on the bozo scale than Sirianni. I don't know. That's an interesting one. McCarthy only kept that job because he was Jerry Jones' yes man. You know what I mean?
Maybe. I honestly don't know.
It's the same
enough
reason
about his
Jason. It's
situation,
the
but
same
yes.
same reason Jason Garrett had that job for 10 years. Not because he was a particularly gifted coach, but just because Jerry'd say something crazy in the press, and he'd just go along with it. You know what I mean? I don't know, but you're right. I mean, 12-5 is not bad.
And yeah, I mean, his career, Sirianni's 51-23. I know that's switching off of McCarthy. It's good. You win twice as many games as you lose. You're a very good football coach.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But Eagles fans are so insane, and they expect a Super Bowl. So all of a sudden now the coach is getting blasted.
He's had some weird timeouts. He's done like the classic like late game mistakes. He's had some weird play calling stuff. So, but I've told you I've always liked the Eagles. I've always, for some reason, when Andy Reid was there or McNabb, I've always had a soft spot. So that's carried over for me. So I wouldn't mind seeing them win, and I like Saquon.
I would ask if it goes back to Randall Cunningham for you, but you don't even remember who Art Monk is. So I honestly can't even go back that far.
You killed it with our draft though.
Reggie White, remember old Reg?
Of course, I remember Reggie White.
He played for the Eagles
He did.
at a similar time that Art Monk played for Washington.
I don't remember him with the Eagles. I remember him with Green Bay, like everybody.
Absolutely not. He had his best years in Philly.
Where does everyone remember him from? Green Bay.
They should. You remember him from Green Bay because he was there after Philly.
Right. Like everybody else.
No, everybody else remembers the Buddy Ryan defenses. You're the only one.
We always talk. Me and the boys get together and talk about the Buddy Ryan defenses.
Yes, they're one of the most famous defenses in NFL history.
I can't wait to talk about the Buddy Ryan defenses with my friends.
All right, more coming up next. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hey, bro.
You hear us every day with our crazy opinions.
Hey, what you doing?
Well, now it's time to hear from you.
Hey, great show.
Download the KSL Sports app and fire off your thoughts with the call-in tab on the bottom of your screen.
Your show is fantastic. It's the one that captivates me the most.
You can tell PK to stop singing.
Cheap bangs.
Let Jake and Ben know what you really think of the Jazz. Tell Hans and Scotty about your favorite barbecue spot or what color of tie JJ should be wearing on TV. The best entries will be played on the air. Download the KSL Sports app now and hit the call-in button to let your voice be heard.
I think you guys do an incredible job.
This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Whether it's the Jazz, Utes, Cougars, or Aggies, these guys have got you covered.
Time to eat, fellas.
You're locked on to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson
1, 2, 3, move it.
on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Two amigos on the airways, talking sports. They got him Matrix and on soul. Loves his tie-dye, Ben's got style with his scarf. Oh my.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake, Scott, Ben, Anderson. We appreciate you making us a part of your Thursday.
We opened the show with Bob Uecker dying. We can close the show with legendary filmmaker David Lynch dying.
Well, why?
It's a big deal.
What did
David
he
Lynch
do?
was a big deal.
I've never heard of the guy.
He died. He directed Blue Velvet. He directed Twin Peaks. Directed Elephant Man.
Yeah, I've never
Mulholland
seen
Drive.
any of those. Have you seen any of those, Christian?
No, I've heard of them. Never seen.
Oh, you should see all of those.
I do have some hard-hitting analytics for you guys,
Okay,
though.
let's
I'm
hear
curious
it.
to your thoughts.
R.I.P. David Lynch.
NBA league leaders in one-legged threes. Who do you think is atop the list?
Wemby.
LaMelo Ball has
Yeah.
taken 53 one-legged three-point shots this season.
How many
He's
did he
shooting. He's made 21 of 53, so
that's
40%.
He should exclusively do that shot.
Trey Young is next at 7 attempts, and he's made 3 of 7.
Yep, I'm telling you.
7 with number 2.
Number
in
2,
attempts
yeah,
is
yeah.
7.
So LaMelo Ball has almost 50 more one-legged three-point shots than the next guy.
I'm so out on LaMelo Ball.
Also on the list are Wemby, Tyrese Halliburton, and LeBron, actually.
Yeah, I was going to say LeBron's taken a couple I've seen.
So I don't know. Maybe
how nice for them.
David Locke is an analytics guy. I wonder what he would have to say.
Again, the All-Star voting just came out a couple of minutes ago, the updated votes. LaMelo's the number one vote getter in the backcourt in the East because he's averaging 29.6 points, 7.5 assists, 5.5 rebounds. Tough because he's also shooting just 52% or 42% from the floor, 42% and 36% or 33% from three. So 42% from the floor, 33% from three. As a guard, 42 is not terrible. But he is 6'7", so that should be higher. He's be able to finish well. And then, as a point guard, if you're shooting threes, especially what did Mike say, 15 a game, 13 a game?
More than anybody else in NBA history.
You got to be up at 35, 36%. Like Keontae is still really an evolving shooter, and he's at 35% from three. It takes a lot.
No. Melo's stats are embarrassing. He should be embarrassed by them, not getting votes because of them. You're taking more shots than anybody in NBA history. You think you're entitled to that? Shooting 42% from the field and 33% from three. Okay, dude.
And he just never plays. He played 22 games last year. He played 36 the year before that. So
and he's playing this year and they still suck.
Yeah. It just doesn't matter. They don't think he matters, which is a really tough spot to be in if you draft a guy who doesn't matter.
I'm
that high,
you.
And then you build your team around him. Here's the truth. If Cody Williams doesn't pan out for the Jazz, it doesn't matter at all. It doesn't matter.
No.
You know what I mean? Ideally he does, but you've got all these other draft picks. You've got all these other things. You are not pot committed to him in the slightest. At all. You're not committed to him. If Isaiah Collier ends up as a decent player and you got him in the same draft you got Cody Williams, you had an okay draft. If Kyle Filipowski can play, and you got he and Isaiah Collier, and Cody Williams never does anything, you still had a good draft. We talk about the Trey Burke draft. Was it good for the Jazz? It was great because they actually got Rudy Gobert out of it. You don't need Cody to actually be a star. It'd be great if he is, but you're going to swing and you're going to miss. And I'm not selling Cody down the road. I'm not pretending like he can't play. We don't know yet. But it doesn't matter that much because the Jazz haven't done anything to turn the team over to him. Charlotte has completely turned everything over to be LaMelo's team. So if he is not helping you win or is not good, and now you've paid him all this money on his second contract, you've really done yourself a disservice.
Can I ask you this? Who has had the best career in NBA history?
LeBron.
I could make an argument. First of all, depending on your judgment, I don't know if I agree with that, but because why wouldn't you say, what's his name for the Celtics who won 12 titles or whatever? But
Bill Russell.
Yeah. I would argue it's Bradley Beal.
Okay, yeah.
That he has had the best career in NBA history. He's gotten paid every cent he's been eligible to be paid, including the Supermax.
Make $250 million at least in his life.
He made the entire basketball world think that he was good. How did he do it?
Not to mention he only plays half as much, too.
Yeah. He was a somewhat good player on a terrible, terrible team.
Yeah.
He could do whatever he wanted. He could fill the stats. He could take all the shots he wanted. He didn't care that his teams were garbage. And here's why it's even better, Ben. Most of his career, he got to take the early summer, where everybody else is slogging it out in the longest playoffs in sports.
I'm off in April.
He's gone. He's on the beach.
Yeah.
Saving wear and tear. So you know what? He can sign another big contract because he can play longer.
Yeah.
Bradley Beal has had the best career in NBA history. That is my argument.
He's made, through the beginning of this season, so not even counting this year's salary, he has made $270 million, Bradley Beal, and has another 160 coming to him on this current contract, assuming he picks up his player option not next year, but the year after that for $57 million, which I think he's going to pick up.
I told you, he's made every cent he's been eligible to make.
So he will be at over $400 million in his career. In
just salary.
Yeah, just in salary. Now, I don't know if he was getting huge brand deals, but he was getting brand deals nonetheless.
He was getting more brand deals than he would have gotten because everybody thinks he's better than he is.
Yeah, right. So, yeah, $400 million, long summers, no expectation to win. No one ever really held his feet to the fire for anything.
Ever.
Yeah.
He's probably never been a top 30 player in the NBA ever.
Right.
And he's maxed out every deal he's ever signed.
Yep.
And has buffaloed everybody into thinking he's great. The answer's not LeBron, my friend.
Well, LeBron's had a hell of a career. LeBron has all of it. LeBron does have the money and does have the championships and is the greatest scorer of all time.
But what you're missing is that LeBron is good.
Yeah, he is great. He's great.
LeBron is good. Bradley Beal is average by NBA standards.
But has tricked people into giving him $400 million.
Because he played on a team where he could do whatever he wanted to.
It's not a bad life.
He's like the Kirk Cousins of the NBA.
A little Kirk Cousins-y.
Yeah. Except for Jake loves Kirk Cousins. Thinks he's the man.
I just never thought he was bad. Everybody just thought he sucked.
He
He never sucked.
Did and does. Same with Bradley Beal.
He did for Atlanta. He was really bad this year. Anyway. All right. Hans and Scotty are coming up next. Stay tuned. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Thanks, Christian.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.